Amtgard is a great game. You get to hit people with foam swords, shoot them with arrows, and throw spell balls. While a good ditch can carry a day, there are also many people who come to Amtgard for the battle games. A good Reeve can make an average game great, but a bad one can turn the otherwise fun day into a frustrating one. I've been running games since 1999, and over the years I've learned a few things that I'd like to share. These are the top 5 areas that I've seen cause problems for people who run battle games. A Reeve is responsible for supervising games, making sure the game rules are being followed and the game runs smoothly. I'll be listing the top 5 reasons a Reeve can ruin a game, explain how a proper Reeve handles the game, and let you know what overcorrecting can look like. Before I get into it, I should explain what I mean when I use the word Reeve. A Reeve is responsible for supervising games, making sure the rules are being followed and the game runs smoothly. A lot of time Reeves and game runners are interchangeable. In the case of large games or complex things like quests, there might be game creators who supervise the game and organize a group of Reeves. In this case, the responsibilities for Reeves might differ from one Reeve to another, but for the purposes of this video, it assumes that the game creators are supervising the games and are de facto Reeves. Number 5. Not knowing the rules. All games are built on rules. Amtgard is no different. Rules are important. If you don't know the rules, you can't run a game. They should be familiar with the basics. Classes, the different states, spell ball durations, verbal durations, the difference between per life and refresh abilities, how armor works, spell targeting, how spells affect people and equipment, but not necessarily the details of each ability. Now, if they have the whole book memorized, including the minutiae, that's great. It can only help them. However, if they don't have all the spells memorized, it's important that they at least know where to look. Being able to quickly reference them on the fly is key. Now, overcorrecting. There is no such thing as knowing the rules too much. However, they shouldn't be overzealous with the application of the rules. If someone makes a minor mistake, it doesn't cause an argument and doesn't affect the outcome of the game, there is no need to call a hold, reset the game, and fix the mistake. The best way to handle this is to take the person aside, tell them what they did wrong, and make sure that they do it correctly in the future. Number 4. Not knowing how to balance. Balance is key. A Reeve might know the rules, but that doesn't mean that the game will be fun. They have to be able to feel the mood of the players and make adjustments as needed. The important aspect is to make sure that the majority of people are having a fun time. It's important that they know the players. A key to making the game fun is giving all sides a fighting chance. It's not fun if one side gets smashed. It's important if you are running a game to balance the teams. The best method is for the Reeve to build the teams. They must make sure they balance for fighter skill, ranged ability, armor, and magic. It sounds simple, but that's not always the case. A good example is armor. There are often people who have physical armor, but the Reeve also needs to take into account magical armor. If there is a druid, they should ask how much armor enchantments they've taken. That can drastically change the outcome of the game. This concept doesn't end at team creation. They must feel comfortable making changes mid-game. If as the game is played it becomes obvious that one side has a large advantage, then it's okay to rebalance the teams. Overcorrection. Balancing teams is tricky business. It can be very easy to overcorrect. This is especially troublesome when the Reeve has to rebalance the teams after gameplay has already started. It's possible they could send over too many of the wrong people to the other side, causing them to have to rebalance the game once again. It's no fun if the game has to be constantly rebalanced. Number 3. Lack of preparation. Being prepared isn't about knowing the rules, it's about the Reeve knowing about the game they are running. A Reeve needs to know the scenario they are running and know it well. Depending on the game they're running, this could be easy or extremely difficult. If the game is a basic capture the flag, there isn't too much to prepare for. They must set up the bases, have a flag, know the death count, how long a team must hold a flag, and what score they need to win, as well as what point they will call a refresh. Preparation gets a lot more complicated when the Reeve is running a quest. Not only do they need to know the basic items such as monster write-ups and quest objects, they also need to make sure they know the objectives, know what the obstacles are for those objectives, and how those objectives are most likely to be achieved. Not to mention, they also need to know the framework for the game itself. What is the death count? Will there be quest abilities? How will those affect play? How are they administered? There is a lot to know, and if they don't know it, the game will fail. On top of the basic preparation, the Reeve also needs to plan to accommodate for the freedom that quests allow. For example, I played in a quest ran by a group of people who had gained a reputation for running quests full of roleplay. I went into the quest assuming that I would be able to achieve some objectives through roleplay. I actually chose to not derail the game by trying to roleplay rather than just steamrolling the monsters. Turns out the quest was really just a kill quest talk to X NPC, kill X monster, get an item, move to the next kill quest. They didn't account for someone who wanted to roleplay through a scenario. This caused the game to stagnate as the NPCs weren't sure what to do. It was assumed that every player would attack the monster without trying to talk to them first. This led to the Reeve just saying kill everything, and broke the flow of the game. In effect, I broke their game by roleplaying through a quest that was supposed to be full of roleplay. Now, there is such a thing as overcorrecting. Planning is important, but a Reeve can also overplan. A Reeve should account for many different scenarios, but not everything should be assumed. For example, if you have a physical wall that is 10 feet tall, you shouldn't plan around someone actually scaling it. Can it happen? Sure, but it probably won't. A Reeve shouldn't get bogged down in the details, but they should know the scenario well enough that they can make quick and informed decisions. If the players find a creative way to circumvent your well-laid plans, they should be rewarded, not punished. Number 2, not knowing your group. What's the point of running a roleplay quest when everyone wants to just fight? There isn't. That's why it's important to know your group. If a Reeve runs a game no one wants to play, then it won't be fun. Look, this doesn't mean a Reeve can't run a quest if most people want to fight. It just means that the Reeve needs to take that into account. A bounty-based quest is perfectly acceptable. A Reeve shouldn't be running a quest where you have to talk to monsters to get some vital bits of information when every player is just going to want to murder smash him before he opens his mouth. It won't be fun for anyone, PCs, NPCs, or the Reeve. Of course, there is always the problem of overcorrecting. A Reeve can't plan a game taking into account everyone's likes and dislikes. A Reeve shouldn't make a game that plays to the strength of an individual person. If you have one player who likes nothing more than to roleplay and would rather talk his way through everything, you shouldn't make a quest that focuses just on talking. Perhaps that should be an option at key places, but the game shouldn't be centered on this one person's playstyle. Number 1, not keeping to a schedule. This is something of a pet peeve of mine. Schedules are important. Every Reeve should have one and stick to it. It's a simple concept, but without it, it's just anarchy. If a Reeve says the game starts at 1 p.m., they should be ready to run it at 1 p.m. If they aren't, then the players will be made to wait and will grow agitated. Worse, if a Reeve becomes known for running their games late, then when they are actually on time, more than likely the players won't be. It will be pure anarchy and no one will have any fun. If the Reeve doesn't keep to a schedule, it can cause a whole day to become derailed. A large kingdom event is a great example. There are lots of things going on, more than just games. There could be a Circle of Steel and a Circle of Monarchs meeting, feast, court, and maybe even an elfing. If the Reeve running the game doesn't stick to the schedule, it can throw off the whole day. People pay attention to consistency. If a Reeve constantly runs things on time, then people will be more likely to be on time. If the Reeve constantly runs games late, then people will assume everything will be late and nothing will be started on time. Even if there is no set schedule, a Reeve should call for games in time increments. For example, when I am running a game, I announce that the game will start in 15 minutes. When I say that, people know I will start the game in 15 minutes. I make a point to start the timer on my phone and to make sure I keep to that time frame. Of course, there is overcorrecting. Schedules are important, but not every schedule is as important as others. It's important to know when you should stick to a schedule and when you can be flexible. At major events, there is little room for flexibility, but on a general practice day, there is usually some. For example, if the schedule calls for a battle game at 2 p.m., but at 2 p.m. there is a great dish going on and everyone is having a fun time, then it's okay to push the game back. However, when you do, make sure that you announce the new time and stick to it. This should be an exception rather than a rule. This has been my 5 top ways a Reeve could ruin a game. I think if you manage to avoid these 5 basic mistakes, you'll have a more enjoyable time running games, and those people playing the game will have an overall better experience. If you have your own suggestions for how to be a Reeve or any questions about Reeve in games, post in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, it would be appreciated if you would click the like button. If you'd like to see more LARP content, consider subscribing to the channel, and until next time, keep on LARPing.